Hi, welcome back. In celebration of hitting 3,000 subscribers, this is the second in a series of Booktuber recommendation videos that I am making. In today's video, I want to recommend to you 13 of my favorite Booktubers who take a more analytical tone in their videos. And along with each Booktuber, I'm also going to give you a book recommendation of a book that I sort of associate with their channel, that's one that I like that I think you might want to check out. We're going to start out by talking about 4 Booktubers who have under 1,000 subscribers. The first person I want to talk about is Beth over at Read Remark. I really love her channel. It's so high quality and she is just so smart and analytical, I mean hence which is why she's on this list, in the way that she talks about the books that she reads. I don't own a physical copy, so I'll put a picture right here, but the book that I want to recommend in conjunction with her channel is Birdbox by Josh Mallerman. This was recently adapted into a movie for Netflix, and it is a sort of horror novel where people go crazy if they look at some monster out in the world, and so they go around blindfolded. It's crazy. It's a fantastic book. I know Beth liked it as well, and the reason that I put this on this list is she does tend to read thrillers, horror, and sort of darker literary fiction. That's a lot of her wheelhouse, and I always really love hearing what she has to say about books. The next person I want to recommend to you is Laura over at Bookie Laura. I love Laura. She's got this kind of dry sense of humor with an analytical approach to things, but she's just really lovely. She's a teacher and she's a mom, and so she reads a lot of middle grade books and does really great reviews of them. She reads other things as well, but that's a lot of what I think of with her channel. So the book that I want to recommend to you is Nevermoor, The Trials of Morrigan Crow by Jessica Townsend. This is the first book in a really amazing magical middle grade fantasy series. And yeah, this is just great. People are calling it kind of the new Harry Potter. It definitely has those same sorts of magical vibes, but the story itself is quite different, and it follows the young Morrigan Crow as she goes on lots of adventures and does things. So it's really, really great, wonderful world, and I recommend you check it out and check out Laura's channel. The next Booktuber that I want to recommend to you is Shelby from Read and Find Out. I just love Shelby's channel. She's got this just really calm, quiet vibe to her, but she's so smart and interesting in the way that she talks about books. So if you want somebody that you can just like chill out to listening to talk and is kind of a more relaxing vibe on camera, I would recommend you go check out Shelby. Shelby reads a lot of sci-fi fantasy, and the book that I want to recommend to you in conjunction with her channel today is The Bear and the Nightingale by Katherine Arden. This is a Russian-inspired fantasy novel that's perfect for wintertime. I absolutely loved it. I know Shelby loved it, and in fact I think this was the book she voted for last year in the BookTube SFF Awards, and that's something that she is involved in. So yeah, I just think she is super sweet and I love her content, and I think this is a really great book. The final Booktuber that I want to recommend to you with fewer than 1,000 subscribers is Priscilla from Bookie Charm. I just really like Priscilla. I think she's also got a really calming vibe. She has a more analytical approach to the way that she thinks about books, and she reads a lot of books by diverse authors and diverse stories. She was involved last year with the Latinx readathon, and yeah, I just really enjoy her and enjoy the things that she has to say about books. And the book that I want to recommend to you in conjunction with her channel is The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. This is a book written in verse. It's beautiful. I've read it twice now and it was 5 stars both times. I absolutely love it. It's a coming-of-age story following Xiomara, a young Afro-Latinx young woman living in New York. And yeah, it's a beautiful, wonderful book, and I know this is one that Priscilla liked as well, so I recommend you check out the book and check out her channel. Moving on, I have 8 Booktubers I want to recommend to you who have between 1,000 and 5,000 subscribers. The first person I want to recommend is Stephanie from That's What She Read. She is one of the creators of the Books in the Freezer podcast. She reads a lot of horror, and I just really like her approach. She talks about really interesting books. Some of them are books that I have interest in, and some of them are things that I probably won't get around to reading, but I just really enjoy hearing her talk about stuff. The book that I want to recommend to you is one that I'm not sure she's actually read, but it seemed appropriate to the channel. I'll put a picture here. That is The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein. This is a young adult retelling of Mary Shelley's horror classic, and I absolutely loved it. I thought it was really creepy, really interesting character studies, and it put an interesting spin on this old tale. Again, I don't know if Stephanie has read this book, but it seemed appropriate. She does tend to read a lot of darker books, a lot of horror, and like fantasy with horror elements. The next channel I want to recommend to you is a friend of mine. This is Karen over at Runwright Reads. She reads a lot of award-winning books and literary fiction, particularly Man Booker Prize-winning books. And the book that I want to recommend to you, again, I'm not sure if she's read this. If she hasn't, she probably should because it seems kind of up her alley. But this is The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead. I really loved this book when I read it a while back. It's really interesting blend of like historical fiction and magical realism that reimagines the Underground Railroad as a literal railroad, and it follows a young slave woman as she is trying to escape through the South. And there's just like so much here. This could have like its whole own video talking about it because I love it so much. But I think this is a really great match for Karen's channel because this is definitely the sort of thing that she would be reading. The next person that I want to recommend to you is a new favorite. I only discovered her pretty recently and I love her so much. I just like love listening to her talk about books. I love everything about her channel. She has wonderful recommendations. She's so smart, so smart. So this is Injiri over at Onyx Pages. Honestly, I don't know why she doesn't have more subscribers. More people should for sure be subscribed to her. Injiri focuses on reading queer literature and specifically Afrofuturist literature. So the book that I want to recommend to you in conjunction with her channel is one of my personal favorites. This is The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. I think this definitely qualifies as Afrofuturist. N.K. Jemisin is a Black woman who wrote this amazing trilogy of books that are kind of a sci-fi fantasy blend with a lot of Afrofuturist elements, and also they have some queer representation. So this seemed really appropriate for her channel, and also it's just a series that's one of my absolute favorite adult fantasy sci-fi series. My next recommendation for you is Matthew Sharapa. I really enjoy watching Matthew's videos. He's just so smart. I love the way that he analyzes books and talks about them. They're really thoughtful, but they're also funny and sometimes snarky. I really enjoy his stuff. He reads a lot of literary fiction and a lot of translated fiction. A lot of things that I don't read as much of, but then sometimes he'll sort of talk about something and talk me into picking it up. A recent book that has become a new favorite that I read because he raved about it on his channel is The Court Dancer by Kyung Sook-Shin. This is a work of translated fiction. It is translated from Korean and it is historical fiction. I loved everything about it and definitely would recommend it to other people. This follows a young woman in Korea who was orphaned and then becomes a court dancer for the king, and then ends up catching the eye of a Frenchman and goes to Paris in the Belle Epoque time period. And it's just a beautifully written, amazingly crafted book that deals with so many issues about identity and racism and colonialism and what it means to be a woman and like so many things. It's beautifully written, and so I had originally listened to it on audio and then had to go out and buy my own copy because I loved it so much. So yeah, go check out Matthew Sharapa's channel and check out The Court Dancer. My next recommendation for you is Samantha Leanne from Leanne's Lit. I really like her. She reads pretty widely. She reads kind of a wide variety of things, but I would say she focuses a lot on horror and darker fantasy. She really loves Stephen King, has a pretty big Stephen King collection, but she reads other things as well. The book that I want to recommend to you for her channel is Down Among the Sticks and Bones by Seanan McGuire. This is book 2 in the Wayward Children series, and I absolutely love this series. I know I've talked about this on my channel a lot, but the reason I wanted to pick this one in particular is it's got a little bit more horror elements to it, more so than the first book. And so this kind of makes me think of her channel. It's got fantastical elements, it's got horror elements, it's really well written. So yeah, I just enjoy her videos. I like hearing her talk about books. And this is one that seems like it would be an appropriate fit. If you're not seeing a theme here, I feel like a lot of the analytical people ended up being people who read a lot of horror and darker stuff, so I don't know what that says, but the next person that I want to recommend to you is Rachel over at the Shades of Orange BookTube channel. I really enjoy her. She's got such a calming presence, which is kind of funny considering that she really reads a lot of horror and like stabby dark fantasy. But I just really enjoy her. She also just had her first baby, which congrats to her. I think she's got a lot of thoughtful things to say about books. I think she does a really good job of breaking down who might be interested in a book and why and what her thoughts on it are. And so the series that I want to recommend in conjunction with her channel is one that I'm not actually sure if she has read, but it seems like it would be on brand for her. So this is what I'm going to recommend, is Nevernight and God's Grave by Jay Kristoff. This is, I don't own Nevernight yet, so I've got God's Grave. But this is stabby, dark fantasy, and like I said, she reads a lot of horror, a lot of dark, sort of stabby fantasy. This is about a young woman who goes and joins a religious order where she can train to become an assassin to avenge the deaths of her families. And it's great, very stabby, very dark, really enjoyed it. So yeah, go check out Rachel's channel and the Nevernight Chronicles by the wonderful Jay Kristoff. My next recommendation is a good personal friend. This is Mara over at Books Like Whoa. Again, Mara is just so smart and analytical in the way that she talks about books. She is quite the omnivore. She reads pretty widely. She reads romance, she reads a lot of mysteries, a lot of nonfiction, some literary fiction, even a little bit of YA fantasy here and there. But the book that I want to recommend to you in conjunction with her channel is actually one that she gifted to me a while back. This is Eloquent Rage, A Black Feminist Discovers Her Superpower by Brittany Cooper. So this is a collection of essays by Brittany Cooper that deal with different aspects of Black feminism. It's like part memoir, part feminist theory and discussion. I read it recently, really, really loved it. I know this was one of Mara's favorite books of 2018, and this is very on brand for her. So yeah, go check out Mara's channel. And the final channel I want to recommend to you in this category with under 5,000 subscribers is Jade over at Bedtime Bookworm. Jade is lovely. We have done a couple of buddy reads together and I just really enjoy her. Again, she's got a really interesting way of coming at books and talking about them. I think because she's got more of a science-y background, so I just really enjoy that. She does really thorough, in-depth discussions, and she also reads pretty widely across genres, so it's always interesting to see what she ends up picking up. One of the big things that she does is the Watch-Along, where she's reading the Wheel of Time series by Robert Jordan and then doing live shows with it. That is not an aspect of her channel I've really followed because I'm not reading the series, but I know that's one thing she's known for. But she reads a lot of other things as well, and the book that I want to recommend to you today in conjunction with her channel is An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. This is the first book in a really great YA fantasy series that is inspired by the Middle East and by the Roman times. It's a little bit darker, it's very action-packed and fast-paced with interesting characters, and her and I actually buddy read the second book in this series with some other girls together and really enjoyed it, so I'm going to recommend this one. And finally, I have one other booktuber that I want to recommend to you in the 5,000 to 10,000 category, but I really, really love their content. This is Adriana over at Perpetual Pages. Adriana, again, tends to read pretty widely, but I think they focus on reading books by diverse authors and books about queer characters, and they also read a lot of middle grade, not just middle grade, plenty of adult and YA books as well, but Adriana is one of the people I think of when I think of getting good, diverse middle grade recommendations. So the book that I want to recommend to you today is a personal favorite that I might not have known existed if it weren't for Adriana's channel, and that is The Beautiful Ones by Sylvia Moreno-Garcia. I loved this book so much. Sylvia Moreno-Garcia is an amazing writer who I think is really underhyped, and I heard about her on Adriana's channel, and I'm so happy that I did. I would say that this book is almost like a blend of Jane Austen and the Bronte sisters, but with a little bit of magic thrown into it. It like kind of hits that in-between note where it's darker than Jane Austen, not as dark as the Bronte sisters, but has definitely got that feel where it's about courtship and manners and relationships. It's a slow burn, character-driven book, but it's so good, so brilliant. I absolutely loved it, and it does have some magic to it. It's written by a Latinx author and set in the Belle Epic time period. Highly recommend it, and this always makes me think of Adriana. So there you go. Those are 13 of my favorite booktubers who take a more analytical approach to the way that they talk about books. I hope that you will go check them out, check all of these books out, because they're all ones that I absolutely love. And if you have any other recommendations of booktubers that you love who are more analytical in the way that they talk about things, leave your recommendations in the comments down below. If you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you want to see more. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.